Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tomasz Stępniewski and I am the Deputy Director of the Institute of Central Europe. And yesterday we had a debate on navigating uncertainty, Russia's aggression against Ukraine and regional security. This debate was moderated by Professor Beata Surmacz, the Director of the Institute of Central Europe, and Professor Marek Pietraś from Maria Curie-Skłodowska University. Now, we shall move on to the second day of our forum. It is time to focus on four panels. First one, which we are here, it's focused on Poland and Romania and regional resilience. The second one, simultaneously, is focused on Central Europe and regional cooperation formats. And then we will have two more panels, Poland's northern policy and the European Union and Western Balkans. So without further ado, I give the floor to the moderator of the first panel, Dr. Piotr Oleksy, and I'm looking forward to a fruitful discussion. So thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Tomasz. Thank you for being with us. And before I will introduce our panelists, we have that honor to listen to our keynote speaker, which is the Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Moldova, Mr. Mihai Popsoi, who recorded a special speech for us. And so now we can now we can turn on the speech. Proszę o włączenie nagrania.
Dear friends, it is my pleasure to address you today, the Lublin Central European Forum. We, in the Republic of Moldova, despite the many challenges coming our way, are not just muddling through, but achieving meaningful progress. It is thanks to the support of our friends and partners, first and foremost in Romania, but also Poland and many other partners that are helping to build resilience in the Republic of Moldova across sectors. In the past 2 years, the Republic of Moldova has achieved progress that we haven't managed to do in the past 30 years, be it in energy security, be it in informational security, and the broader resilience of the society. The Republic of Moldova has welcomed the largest number of refugees per capita, over 1.5 million in a country of just about 2.5 million. We are still hosting about 115,000, mainly women and children, and will continue to provide the best care we possibly can from our modest means to our Ukrainian friends and partners. The Republic of Moldova stands firm by Ukraine and will continue to do so, no matter the circumstances. The Republic of Moldova has also generously provided the solidarity lanes for Ukraine's exports and imports, especially when the time of the Black Sea was blocked. The Republic of Moldova was crossed by over 1 million tons of goods, mainly grain, to help Ukraine in these challenging circumstances. The Republic of Moldova has earned this tagline of a small country with a big heart, which we are incredibly proud of. And the Republic of Moldova and its people, despite the attempts of the Russian Federation to divide us internally, to build a wedge between us and our Ukrainian refugees, between Moldovans in the country and abroad, between Romanian speakers and Russian speakers, we remain united. We'll continue to show solidarity for Ukraine as well as for our European future. Some of the achievements that the Republic of Moldova has managed in the past few years, particularly when it comes to energy security. Just 3 years ago, it felt like Moldova has this everlasting connection with Gazprom, which was impossible to break. Well, it turns out it is very much possible. Moldova is no longer importing gas from Gazprom and is buying it on the international market, is buying it in the summer, storing it so that we can use it when we have a need for it. We're also building high voltage lines to connect ourselves to Romania, that is to the European energy market, so that we can no longer depend on electricity on the Kuchurgan power plant controlled by the Kremlin. At the same time, we are looking to get integrated into broader energy projects in our region, including in green energy. We're investing more in photovoltaic farms in Moldova. We are trying to do our best to also reduce consumption by insulating public buildings, and we get a lot of support from our partners in the international community. At the same time, we are investing in our infrastructure so that when time comes, we are well positioned to help in the reconstruction efforts of Ukraine. But in the meantime, our call to the international community is to reduce destruction in Ukraine so that there is less reconstruction to do. The Republic of Moldova remains firmly committed to building its own resilience so that we can in turn help Ukraine. And as I tell our international partners all the time, all the support that Ukraine receives is support for the Republic of Moldova. And every support the Republic of Moldova receives, it's also support for Ukraine. This year, we have a very serious test, the referendum on EU and the presidential elections. And we already see that the Kremlin will spare no resources to try to destabilize the Republic of Moldova by sponsoring protests, by bribing voters, by using all sorts of narratives and hybrid tactics to cause the Republic of Moldova to deter it from the European path. But we remain firm. We'll continue to invest in our defense, we'll build resilience in our institutions, and we continuously count on our friends in Bucharest, in Warsaw, and in the broader free world to help us in this path. In fact, some of the other achievements the Republic of Moldova managed in the very recent past is doubling our defense spending. In our national security strategy, we committed ourselves to 1% of GDP spending on defense. Of course, it's a far cry from the 2%, which is the NATO standard, but this is a big step forward for the Republic of Moldova, which historically was mainly investing in defense about 0.3% of our GDP. As we have identified in our national security strategy that Russia is the main national security threat, we also need to commit resources. And we do that. And we will continue to invest in our defenses, both military, cyber, but also police, intelligence, so that we can better defend the democratic freedoms and the will of the Moldovan people to decide their own fate and their own future. And of course, Russian propaganda will continue to undermine this path, will continue to sow division in the Republic of Moldova, will continue to undermine our strategic trajectory of joining the European family of nations. But thanks to the support of our friends and partners in Bucharest, in Warsaw, and across Europe, and across the free world, we are sure that, as the saying goes, a friend in need is a friend indeed. And we see this support, we're incredibly grateful for all the support that we are receiving, and we in turn are committed to being also a security provider in the region, not just a security consumer. We are committed to maintaining peace and stability within the Republic of Moldova. We are in constant talks with the so-called leaders in the Transnistrian region, so that we exchange information, so that we can use the EU negotiation process, the single market accession process in the near future, as a pull factor for reintegration, for peaceful reintegration, which is the only solution that we see to the conflict. At the same time, we are committed to engaging more with our citizens in the Gagauz autonomy, so that the Kremlin finds it more difficult to instrumentalize and to antagonize our society by fostering discontent and trying to alienate our citizens and trying to sow division. We are committed to peace and stability in our region, and we are also showing that in deeds by already for 10 years participating in the KFOR missions and also recently providing several civilian police personnel to these missions. We're also looking forward to engage in more EU missions abroad so that we can consolidate the interoperability with our partners. We are thankful for all the support that we've received from Poland, from Romania. The level of our political relations are now truly excellent, and we count on building on this strong foundation in the future. We just had very productive consultations with our Polish counterparts last week on political affairs and defense, and I look forward to the visit in June to Warsaw at the invitation of my counterpart Radoslav Sikorski. Of course, needless to say, our relations with Romania are strong as they've ever been, and it's evident from the level of ties at the very highest level and across sectors and the fact that we are now in the process of also building bridges, not just remembering the old proverbial context that we've had in the early 90s and late 80s. Now we are actually building bridges to connect ourselves firmly to Romania, and we are counting that this infrastructure that we are building will continuously build the resilience of our country and will help us advance on our European path. So, as I said at the beginning, we're not just muddling through, but we are defying odds, and we are reaching meaningful progress across sectors. And one of the best evidence of that is our accelerated reforms when it comes to EU accession, be it justice reform, be it combating corruption. We are delivering on all fronts because that is what our citizens expect of us. And given that it also helps us on our EU accession path, it's only better. So we thank you for all your support, and we look forward to continuously building resilience and making Moldova a truly European country. Thank you.
Okay, now I will have a pleasure to invite our panelists. Come guys, sit, and I will introduce you in a moment. Okay, so our guests today are Mr. Cristian Ghiță and Mr. Alexandru Andronic. Both of them represent Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center in Bucharest, a governmental institution which is our good partner now. We may say in autumn we partnered to organize a panel in Bucharest on the forum on resilience, and now they are our guests here, and we are working even on the common policy paper now. So I am happy that we found so good partners in Romania now. And our third panelist is Tomasz Horbowski from the Solidarity Fund, Polish Solidarity Fund. Tomasz was leading a Moldovan branch of the Solidarity Fund, living in Chisinau in Moldova and working there for already 1 decade, for 10 years. So as we just said, he's like, you know, diplomats are coming and leaving Moldova, and Tomasz is always there. So okay, so we had a great and very interesting speech from Mr. Minister Mihai Popsoi, which gives a light on the question of the resilience of Moldova and the efforts of Moldova to build the regional resilience. It is very interesting and very good message that he presents Moldova as not only as a partner in building broader regional resilience. The concept of the panel was that from the very beginning that, in my point of view, Poland and Romania are the two states who are very strongly engaged in Moldovan questions. Of course, we have other partners there, deeply engaged, but the special ties between Romania and Moldova nations or nation, maybe, they are obvious. Poland is very engaged for many years on the political level and on the development level. So I think that we can look on the situation and on our common efforts from the very different level, and we are going to do that during this panel. And my first question is for Cristian, because you are analyzing and working on the topic of regional resilience on the very different perspectives and in the broad context. Now the key question for Moldova is the process of the European integration. And in there's the same question about Ukraine, about the European integration. So what is the meaning of the EU integration of Moldova, and maybe of Ukraine as well, if you want to touch that, for regional resilience?
Thank you very much, Piotr. And let me say on behalf of the Euro-Atlantic Resilience Center that we are very, very glad to have found in IES an excellent partner. Your breadth and width of expertise is fabulous, and we are so happy to be able to work together so closely on so many projects. So we are very happy to finally be here in Lublin, and you are always welcome in Bucharest, and you have a good friend in Bucharest. So going back to your question about resilience and the role that European integration plays in increasing the resilience of the region, I'm going to look at it from both sides. So how does the process help Moldova increase its resilience? And how does this process help the EU promote resilience and increase its resilience? So on the one hand, it's very on the grassroots, it's a very strong signal to investors that Moldova has reached a certain status, that it is credible enough so that investors are more willing to engage with Moldova. Because up to a point, resilience is also a matter of having resources and being able to build the redundancies that are required. You need resources. So having a strong, vibrant economy is one of the key elements of having a resilient community. So this signal that the European Union has sent by giving Moldova candidate status is putting Moldova more firmly on the map for investors. Then you have the question of implementing the acquis, the rules and the standards that the European Union is so well known for. And, of course, it's not just about the shape of the banana and the curvature of the banana. It's making sure that you have a functional justice system, making sure you have a functional and vibrant market economy. All of these things contribute to the viability of a community and the viability of a nation. So in that sense, making the necessary efforts, taking the necessary steps to implement the community acquis is building Moldovan resilience. Then there's the political message of support that Moldova does not stand alone. It's very easy to disappear when nobody is calling you, when everybody forgets about you. But this political signal that Moldova is on the brink of being part of a big family, big influential family, is going to change the risk calculation for any potential aggressor. So upping the ante, again, builds the resilience of Moldova. Deterrence by resilience, which is one of those concepts that NATO is looking into very intensely. And also works for the European Union, so it's not just a military concept, it's also a political concept. And finally, something that is very intangible, hope. And I can speak from the Romanian experience. I'm from that generation that made the step towards joining the European Union. I still remember what it feels to have a purpose, to our country coming together around one specific purpose that crossed party lines, that crossed societal divisions. Everybody understood where the country was going, why we were doing the reforms. It was that sense that tomorrow will be a better day. This sense of hope was a very strong cohesive force for the Romanian society. And I expect the same thing to happen in Moldova. Because we were talking yesterday about navigating uncertainties, this is a map that charts a course into a very uncertain future. This is something that the pro-European parties in Moldova can offer that the other side does not. Hope for a better future. Hope that your children will do better than you, which is something that everybody, at least in Eastern Europe, has a very deep sense of, that we were the sacrificed generations, but our children will do better. So this message of hope is something that can bring a society together like nothing else. And when it comes to building societal resilience, this is something that is so precious. So this is why Moldova gains from it. But let's look at what Europe gains from the integration project. Well, Europe has begun as a peace process. And right now we are rediscovering the value of this peace process. Again, looking back at the experience of Romania, the European integration has managed to quash a lot of the regional differences that we had with our neighbors. I'm sure you are well aware of the, not enmity, but at least rivalry between Romania and Hungary. Being part of this project, of the European project, has really dampened that rivalry. Not many people remember the hostilities, the open warfare between Romania and Bulgaria. That thing is completely of the past. And that is also part of the European, the power of the European dream and of the European idea. Now, bring that further east, and you have a model for peaceful cooperation, peaceful integration, peaceful relationships. Because you were mentioning one or two nations, we are two nations, but the European, sorry?
Good to hear.
But the European path gives a solution to that dilemma. It makes it irrelevant. Being part of the same family is something that can calm down a lot of the tensions and a lot of the what would otherwise become a fault line in society. Also, European integration provides at least the possibility, it brings closer the possibility of dissipating and reducing the relevance of frozen conflicts. And it was very interesting to see how the Russians were trying very hard to bring Transnistria into the war, and they failed. And of course, there are many things that happened behind the curtain, but definitely one of the factors that contributed to the reluctance of the kleptocracy in Tiraspol was that they had economic interests tied to Moldova and to the European Union. And again, for them, the risk calculation was, it does not pay off to go along with the Russian wishes. So this pull factor, this ability of Europe to provide an alternative, is something extremely potent and something that builds regional resilience. But it's not something that Europe just offers to Moldova and to Ukraine. Europe has a lot to learn from the skills and the knowledge that Moldovan and Ukrainian experts have. Again, going back to yesterday's panel, that NATO is an orchestra that keeps rehearsing but never plays. These guys bring an expertise that we lack. We may be very proud of our achievements, of our resources. We may be very proud to train the Ukrainian troops, but deep down, I believe that we have a lot to learn from the Ukrainians, and we have a lot to learn from the Moldovans when it comes to facing hybrid threats, for example. The way that the brave Moldovans have stared down the Russians when the Russians wanted to bring them down is an extraordinary achievement, and something that we have to learn from them. In the end, resilience is a property of networks. So bringing more diversity, bringing more perspectives into this great network that is the European Union and that is the region, I think can only benefit the two sides of this operation. Now, I don't want to paint too rosy a picture. Of course, there are risks. For example, adding complexity to an already complex decision-making process, adding more actors to an already cumbersome process has its risks. For example, does the idea of bringing inside Europe unresolved conflicts. In the past, Europe has survived that, and I'm thinking very much of Cyprus, that the European Union is doing very well and has not been contaminated by the conflict in Cyprus. And I'm sure that by the end of the integration process, things in Moldova and in Ukraine will look much clearer. And I think a lot of the problems that we are facing now will be a thing of the past. So I'm extremely optimistic about what this process brings to the region and to the specific actors.
Okay, thank you very much. And you mentioned hybrid threats for Moldova, and we can say openly that Russia is leading a hybrid war against Moldova now. And and now I have a question for Alexandru. How do you define the main hybrid threats for Moldova in your work?
Okay. Thank you for the very interesting question. With regards to hybrid warfare in the Republic of Moldova, I would say it's essentially a textbook case of Russian hybrid warfare, in the sense that it is defined by the use of all elements within Russia's hybrid set of instruments. So it's exploiting energy dependency, networks of corruption, political influence, the presence of intelligence agencies, the frozen conflict in Transnistria, and organized crime. And this is something that we will come back to. So in this sense, I would say that Moldova is facing a threat across all of these dimensions. And in terms of who would be, let's say, the figure that is most representative of this, I would say that at this moment, despite the fact that he is not the leader of the most significant pro-Russian political force in Moldova, I would say that the face of Russia's hybrid warfare in Moldova is Ilan Shor. Ilan Shor, he's basically a Moldovan oligarch, pro-Russian, now residing in Israel and Russia, who is known for being involved in white-collar financial crime. He's been convicted for fraud, been involved in stealing 1 billion from the Moldovan banking system. And now the Russians are essentially using his network in most of their political operations and in the most significant sort of social unrest that they try to promote. And it's important to understand that this network, it's not the only one. So the Russians do have sort of their classical proxies, the more, let's say, sort of mainstream, if you will, pro-Russian political forces. But I would say that in the last 2 years, it's this group that is built around Ilan Shor that is the most significant one. And it's important to understand that before being a political group, this was, at its origins, a white-collar organized crime group, financial crime group. And this is an instrument that Russia is still using. So what was the Russian plan for Moldova? After noticing that the pro-European administration poses a real danger to their interests and to their schemes for Moldova, what the Russians did was they sought to bring it down. And they wanted to combine energy blackmail, which they would enact by essentially lowering the supply of gas and through their Transnistrian proxies, the supply of electricity to the Republic of Moldova, while having the political group around Ilan Shor organize demonstrations. And during the demonstrations, violent organized crime elements were supposed to trigger episodes of violence and to lead to chaos in the streets, which would bring down the Moldovan government. And this did not work out for the Russians, because they assumed that Moldova's dependency upon Russia for energy for 3 decades was going to remain unchanged. So they thought that if they just stop supplying energy, they will bring a social collapse in the Republic of Moldova, upon which the pro-Russian political forces could ride to power. What happened was that Romania intervened and supplied electricity in the autumn of 2022, when the power plant controlled by the Transnistrian separatists in Cuciulgan, which was the only source of electricity really for the Republic of Moldova, stopped supplying them because that power plant runs on Russian gas. So when the Russians sort of turn off the valve, the Transnistrians also cannot export, even if they would want to, let's say, for business reasons. So what happened was that Romania started urgently providing electricity to the Republic of Moldova. At one point, Romania was covering more than 80% of the necessary. And we also started providing gas to the Republic of Moldova. And what happened was that, of course, it was more expensive, because these were, after all, we did our best to give them preferential prices, but we still operated within the context of the European market, whereas the Transnistrians basically aren't even made to pay for the gas that they use by the Russians, because this isn't an economic relationship between the separatists and the Russians. It's a political instrument. So Gazprom is more than happy to just supply them gas and never ask for the money while listing it as Moldovan debt. So Romania intervening essentially cut off one of the pillars of Russia's hybrid plan, because according to their plan, despair at the energy prices was supposed to bring Moldovans into the streets in support of Ilan Shor's demonstration. With Romanian support, the prices rose, but not to such catastrophic levels. So what happened was that Moldovans didn't join those demonstrations. They were mostly attended by paid protesters, and it showed. The Moldovan government also took a much firmer action against the criminal elements within the crowd. They arrested them. The intelligence and the police were on side. And this is also something that the Russians didn't expect, because historically speaking, they've been able to operate with absolute impunity in Moldova. So it was, in a way, it was an act of defiance. I think that's how the Russians perceived it. It's like they were like, "Wow, they're not supposed to do that," yet they did. And so they were very surprised at this. And then what Romania did after the demonstrations ended, when the Russians saw that it's not working, Romania supported a European initiative to sanction the persons responsible for destabilizing the Republic of Moldova. And in this case, again, we return to Ilan Shor's group, because this is really who we were talking about. And actually, Moldovan and Romanian authorities essentially sat at the table and together discussed and compiled the list of sanctioned persons. And it was approved at the European level. And this was essential, because it hit the financing mechanisms for Russia's hybrid warfare. With Ilan Shor and his entourage sanctioned, it became much harder to bring Russian funding into the Republic of Moldova for hybrid activities. And so they had to resort to even more illegal methods and to even more illicit funding, which opens them up to essentially to judicial consequences. Because they're breaking the law, they're bringing money in illegal ways, they're trying to corrupt voters. This is what they do, this is how they operate. And now that the impunity is gone and that they're subjected to international sanctions, they're stuck with methods that are very, very exposed to actions by the Moldovan judiciary and law enforcement. For example, they try to bring in money using cards issued by third-party entities in the Middle East, and they try to bring them at the airport without declaring them. It's obviously illegal stuff that essentially makes it a very easy case for Moldovan prosecutors, and it hampers their financing mechanism. And Romania played a key part in helping stop the bigger flows of illicit Russian financing. And there's also the broader societal dimensions. So, of course, as part of its hybrid warfare, Russia uses disinformation and propaganda. And what that propaganda is trying to tell Moldovans is that the pro-European administration and President Alexandru are making them poorer for no reason. Essentially, it's basically you're going to be poor and the EU will still not receive you. They will just exploit you, take all the money, and you're going to be left with a poor, destroyed country. And by supporting the Republic of Moldova's EU integration and helping the country get into the position where its leaders can point out and say, we are making real progress. We have candidate status, we've opened accession negotiations. It just flies in the face of that narrative. The population sees that things are actually progressing. The country is actually going somewhere. And of course, this was also done with the support of our EU partners, all of whom agreed to this. And there's also the help that because it costs when you have to fight a hybrid war to defend yourself against hybrid warfare. It does bring all sorts of economic costs to the country. And in this sense, the financial assistance provided both bilaterally by Romania and at the European level with our support and that of partners is essential, because it gives the government sort of a financial cushion from which it can pay in various emergencies, or it can pay for various projects that end up consolidating the European trajectory of Moldova. And we can expand on other particular aspects later, depending upon what's more of interest to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And when we are speaking about resilience, we usually, in the first moment, we think about those things that we are talking about now. But Tomasz, you work on a different level, let's say, in the area of development aid. You are cooperating with many partners in Moldova on the, let's say, grassroots level. And do you perceive development aid as a part of resilience building process as well?
Thank you very much, and thanks a lot for inviting me. Actually, I'm on my way to Chisinau, so to prove that. Piotr, thanks for the question. I believe that when we speak about the cooperation for development, especially in countries like Romania or Poland, we should also focus on our perception about ourselves. And I would like to start from this point, because I believe that very often, and this is very often when we speak about cooperation for development, we could think about charity, some charity projects, humanitarian aid, not necessarily about resilience, state building, or well-being. And this is also about perception of ourselves in a way that we as Poles, we as Poland, or we as Romanians, we become a well-being country. So when we speak about cooperation for development, very often people think about development of Poland, not necessarily of being engaged outside with different kinds of resources, money, but also expertise, institution capacities, So that's why I would like to start with this point, that we need to reflect a little bit about the perception of ourselves and perception of what cooperation for development cooperation is about. The second point I would like to mention is about the European context, which is also reshaping a bit the way we and EU countries are thinking about cooperation for development. For a long, long period of time, it was focused on sustainable development goals. And starting from 2017, 18, 19, we can observe a swift from, let's say, traditional cooperation for development perception focused on SDGs to a political tool to achieve some political goals, to achieve some security goals, to achieve some economic goals. So we can see that the perception of cooperation for development in this, let's say, broader context, even before the war has started, to keep balance between sustainable development goals, a little bit, I would say, a little bit idealistic and not tangible, to balance them with some political, security, or economic achievements. The third point is about enlargement. So if we speak about Moldovan EU perspective, we understand that we have a very clear political goal, but in behind there is a need for some tools to implement this political goal. So in this sense, enlargement and cooperation for development is very much interconnected, because enlargement policy, international, let's say, or development cooperation is a tool to implement enlargement policy. So if we listen to Minister Popsoi, who is speaking about reforms, who is speaking about economic or energy resilience of Moldova, we can understand that in behind there are experts, there are money involved, there are institutions involved, and we need to be aware of this, let's say, whole implementation infrastructure that stands behind political goals we would like to achieve. Fourth point I would like to mention is about the perception, because I do believe that indeed Moldova receiving the EU perspective, we have a clear goal and hope, but at the same time we need to have and ensure quick wins today. Otherwise we'll not move forward. And it is important that we can see progress in terms of opening negotiations. We can see some, let's say, green colors on the enlargement report, which is important. But the people, they need to touch and to feel it and to touch the enlargement. And I believe that this is the most important place when cooperation for development comes and can prove that enlargement, indeed, it is about future, but at the same time, you can ensure that something is happening now. And I would like to mention the surveys that surveys done by Watchdog, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, regarding EU funding in Moldova. 60% of the population of Moldova believes that EU funding is not spent in the interest of ordinary citizens. 40% of those who perceive themselves as pro-European part of the society, they believe that the money, they do not go to Moldovan people, they do not change Moldova. And I believe that this is the very important fact that should be reflected by countries like Poland or Romania, how to make cooperation for development effective, how to make EU cooperation for development effective, because we need to keep in mind that the enlargement process and the perception of the enlargement process today is crucial for the hope for tomorrow. And I can give several examples how Polish Solidarity Fund is trying to achieve that, working, as Piotr, as you said, at the local level, but at the same at the central level, because we believe that our role, even if we are working in different areas, like rural development, urban development, or security sector, it is not our role to provide rural development in Moldova. This is the role of the ministry and rural communities. What we can do, we can create some space to test and to implement some EU policies in a way that they are tangible for the people. And this is how we have implemented leader approach, which is a part of rural development agenda, rural development policy in the EU countries, acknowledged in the enlargement report published last year. This is how we introduced urban regeneration to regional development fund. This is how we work with Ministry of Internal Affairs and fire brigades. That was acknowledged by EU civil protection mechanism, and this is how we cooperate with Polish Development Bank, BGK, establishing and launching credit line for small-scale business producers in Moldova, the first time ever. So in this case, what I want to say is that Moldova for Poland could be also a good opportunity. To change perception and implementation of our Polish cooperation for development. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. If you have remarks for each other, of course, you should share it with us. But now I want to get back to Cristian, because we are still jumping on a very different level, and I think that is the sense of the thinking about the resilience. And now I want to ask you about one peculiar thing that I found out lately, that EU integration of EU neighbors is a part, in Romania, it is perceived as a part of a national security strategy. So do you perceive that straightly as a security question of your national security?
Well, it is listed explicitly in the National Strategy for Defense in Romania. So this is a document that is created by the presidency and then approved by the parliament. So every word of it is a part and parcel of Romania's outlook on the threats, the opportunities, and the means to ensure the security of the nation. You know, going back to what I was saying, Europe is a peace project, and the success of European integration is something that Romania is extremely proud of. For a good time, it was the most important project of Romania that kind of ordered the space around in the political sphere and at societal level. And Romania won't shut up about it, and it will talk about it to everybody who would listen. So it is listed in the foreign policy priorities of Romania in this national strategy for defense, that Romania supports the integration of its neighbors into the European Union. And the reason for that is that Romania has been on the receiving end of aggression in the past, and it very much believes that belonging to the European Union will solve a lot of the regional conflicts that still simmer in the region. And the way for us to reduce the risks that threaten us is to make sure that everybody around us is part of the same club, of the same family. Romania has a past of using law and peaceful negotiations to solve regional problems. For example, fairly recently, we had a difference of opinion with Ukraine when it comes to separating the economic areas in the Black Sea. And the questions revolved around the Snake Island, which has gained a lot of fame during the Russian invasion. But that was a point of contention. And we managed to solve that using international arbitration. And again, we are very proud that we are using these instruments, peaceful instruments, to resolve regional conflicts, a path out of a security dilemma for us. And again, we are very proud to be able to promote European integration as an instrument to solve these. And I'm looking at, it's not just that Romania uses this instrument. It's also part of the European, the power of the European dream that animates Eastern Europe in a way that perhaps it doesn't in Western Europe anymore. I don't remember the last time when Western Europeans faced water cannons draped in the European flag in the way Georgians very bravely do right now. So I think this European integration is a process of rejuvenation also for the European Union, and it's a way for the European Union to reconnect with the values, the real benefits that it brings to the people. It's very easy to get used to the good things and to take them for granted and just focus on what is today an inconvenience and forget about how important all these achievements of the European Union are. Again, I'm from that generation who saw rampant corruption in Romania, and that has been toned down. We saw rampant poverty in Romania, and that is on the way down. I am still from the generation who remembers what it was like not to be a part of the European Union. And I think this is something that we should continue to advocate.
Alexandru, Mr. Mihai Popsoi, Mr. Minister, he mentioned Moldova's success in energy sector, reorientation of its own energy sector. He mentioned also bridges, that there are real bridges. They are building, you are building together, real bridges on the Prut River between not only ideological or metaphorical, but the real road bridges between Romania and Moldova. So could you briefly give us a picture of those common projects in the energy sector and the connectivity between Romania and Moldova?
Sure. Thank you for the question. So in order to sort of give an outline of just how much the Republic of Moldova and Romania have achieved together in the last few years in this sense, I think it would be useful to also have a picture of what it was like before. So the Moldovan energy system was in many ways an expression of the Stalin-Vytsinski doctrine of in which Russia sought to make all of the post-Soviet states dependent upon it for energy. And so how it worked is that anything related to energy in the Republic of Moldova used to be done through the Moldova Gas Company, and the Moldova Gas Company it's in many ways it's an aberration. So it was responsible for the gas purchases of the Moldovan state, but the Moldovan state was only a minority shareholder. It was 50% held by Gazprom and 13% held by the Transnistrian separatists. So that probably gives you a picture of where its loyalties were and still are. But what happened was that after the energy shocks in late 2022, Romania got a lot more involved and the interconnection grew. So what happened was that the Iași-Ungheni gas pipeline began to operate. The Trans-Balkan pipeline also started operating in reverse flow for the first time, and this made it possible to bring gas from Romania into the Republic of Moldova. And in terms of electricity, I would say that the arrangement was pretty much similar. So the electricity all came from Transnistria and was thus controlled, in extenso by Russia. So what happened was that numerous connection lines were built with Romania, and they're still in the process of being supplemented, because right now there's still a catch to it. So there are powered lines going from Romania to the Republic of Moldova, but they do not go straight to Chișinău. They go through Transnistria and then they go back to the Republic of Moldova. So again, another artificially engineered dependency by Soviet design, basically, which still gives them some leverage, although if they do cut the power line, they would also be cutting their own power line. So it's relative, but it's still there. The danger and the threat is still there.
Alexandru, I just thought that, in Poland we very often we have a discussion if the term post-Soviet area is still valid. Yes, it is still valid. It is still post-Soviet area in this sector, as we see. Yeah?
I would say that not anymore, or soon not anymore, because the Vulcanești-Chișinău power line, which will go directly to Chișinău and not through Transnistria, is in the process of being built, and it's going to be ready in 2025. And this is essentially a revolution for the Moldovan energy sector. Romania has the export capabilities to ensure the necessary of energy in the Republic of Moldova. So, for example, now we're exporting something like 1,000 megawatts to the Republic of Moldova. That's more than they need. They still have a deal with the Transnistrian separatists because of sort of economic feasibility considerants. And they get much of their electricity from there, and they export 90% of what Romania exports to Moldova to Ukraine. They pass it on, but this is going to change, and it's going to change because the electricity that is produced in Transnistria is produced using Russian gas that transits Ukraine, and even with the war, that deal it's still valid until I think something like late 2024, early 2025. But Ukraine has given quite clear signals that it's not going to renew that deal. So the switch to the European energy market is going to have to made in full because of that. And what's important to know is that Romania has the capacity to export all of the needed electricity in that event. And with the gas situation there, it's a bit more complex. But right now we export about to the Republic of Moldova about a third of the necessary consumption. But that is also going to grow, and the broader connection with the European market in terms of gas is also going to grow. So that's going to be solved too. And when Moldova breaks free from this energy dependency, it will become simply a political decision. And this is the last thing that I'm going to mention in relation to that, is that the Transnistrian separatist region, which is whose people are still, most of them are still citizens of the Republic of Moldova, is dependent upon the energy export. So if Moldova stops buying energy from them, it's going to be a social and potentially a humanitarian crisis. So this is ultimately, once Moldova becomes independent energetically from these sources, this will be the last hurdle. How to do that, how to break away from these sources without causing a sudden collapse. But this is already a monumental change where essentially they don't have to fear that they will be left without energy. They just have to manage a political process in order to essentially avoid hurting their own citizens. It's a position in which the Moldovan government has a lot more room for maneuver, in which it can truly manage this at exactly the pace it wants, not at the pace at which Russia would like it to. Thank you.
So, before my question to Tomasz, I would like to bring some internal political context to our discussion. Internal meaning in Moldova, because we speak about the threats and the threat for European integration or the western path of Moldova. They came, of course, from the outside, from Russia, but there are some threats from inside. And they are not only from the pro-Russian part of society or the political scene, but there could be, we can find some threats from inside, I mean from the ruling camp, yes? Because their mistakes or the things that they don't deliver, they are creating a threat for European integration of Moldova as well. And what we observe now, we observe a decline of support for party of action of solidarity for the ruling party and for the President Maja. And it is quite it is a threat for whole process, because in Moldova, in the perception of Moldovans, support for EU integration is closely linked to this political camp, and we can say openly that the ruling camp is using that for its own. And in the October 20, we will have there will be a presidential elections in Moldova, and in the same day there will be a referendum on the EU integration, and it is a threat as well, because for many reasons. Organizing a referendum and elections in the same day, Poland was criticized about that a few months ago. Sorry. And of course, there is a threat that people will, for example, vote no, or they will not vote at all in the referendum, not because they are against European integration, but they would like to show how upset they are on the ruling camp. And the reasons of this decline of support are very different. There is no one reason, and I think that the most important and the fundamental reason are the huge expectations. The huge expectations that were very alive in Moldovan society in the 2021 when they took the power, and the expectation that in next few years Sandu and PAS will change the country. And we all know that it is impossible. It is especially impossible in the situation of the war in the borders and under the hybrid war against us. So it's very of course, those circumstances are very, very hard for them. And the question of the security of the energy sector is a very good example, because we all are very proud and very happy what they did, yeah? that now they are independent from Russia. But in the same time, for the regular citizens, the prices for gas, they are seventh time, they grew for 7 times, yeah? 700%. So, and a lot of Moldovans, what is obvious, they don't ask themselves so much from where that gas comes from. They ask themselves from where I should take take money to pay for for the bills. And of course, so we as a partners, we are facing a serious dilemma in our policy and politics toward Moldova, and this dilemma returns. It was in the time of the first coalition, pro-European coalition in the year 2009, 14, etc., under the Filat and Plahotniuc, and it returns somehow now. I don't want to compare PAS and Sandu to those oligarchs. No, it's not my purpose. But the dilemma is that how to divide promotion of the EU integration idea from the support for one political force, especially in the situation when that political force monopolized that part of political scene, in the very natural process, yeah? Because of the social support, but they don't have a rivals there, no competitors there on this part. And of course, and I'm not saying, I don't want to criticize them or us, because I just want to show the picture how complicated is the situation, because it is really easy to say we should make a division between support for between promoting European integration and between support for PAS and Sandu. But how to make this division when in those circumstances that Alexandru described, all those hybrid threats and the pro-Russian forces, propaganda, etc., every critic, each time we criticize a little bit the pro-European camp, it will be used fully and deeply by them. So, so in this, we are not in a we have a serious dilemma there. And it is very nice to, and it is very fruitful for writing articles about them and about also, you know, for the scientific journals and for the newspaper, and to talk about that on the panels. But on the level of politics and of the practice, this is a very serious dilemma. And now is my question for Tomasz, because what's the solution? What's the solution? And it's a joke. I'm not. Maybe you have a solution. So please share that with us. But my question is a little bit different. That you have a long period experience of working in state building in Moldova, resilience building, etc. And I think that you may have some reflections on what was done badly by us. What could we done better? What was our main mistakes there?
No, I mean, maybe I will start a little bit. I mean, indeed, this is the biggest dilemma that we have at the moment in Moldova, because to make a change, you need politicians. But on the other hand, European integration and enlargement is not about politics. It is something bigger. Yes, it is modernization. You were mentioning peace building process. I would add also modernization process. Modernization of the state, modernization of the institutions, modernization of the way the society is structured. Maybe one point to this discussion is about threats. Sometimes I have a feeling that we are very much focused on threats, and disinformation becomes a point of reference, not the perspective, not the positive side of, let's say, life, or positive side of social and political processes.
Always look on the bright side of life, yeah.
so maybe I would say that there is not too much time, but at the same time, I believe that there is a huge need of thinking about how we as European countries, as EU, are communicating with the Moldovan society. And maybe one more point to add is about statehood, yes, and building state. So to keep this, so it's always difficult, but as I said at the beginning, you need politicians to make the reforms or change, and you need political will. But at the same time, you have structures, you have institutions, and you have policies, public policies in place. So maybe this is a kind of a clear division. When it comes to Poland, I would say that we had, I mean, from my garden of cooperation for development, the system in Poland was established in 2011, 2012, when Cooperation for Development Act was adopted. We have frame of the system. We have multi-annual planning. We have some functions. What we are missing is financial mechanism. This is one, but crucial and important element. So that's why since 2012, 2013, we have a lot, plenty projects, but they are small scale, which is good because it creates some, let's say, some ground, but they are not. There is no one to gather them and to create, let's say, a kind of direction. So I truly believe that we, as Poland, we are entering maybe a new phase of cooperation for development in a way that will go farther and make it in more mature way. Thinking, what does it mean? Focusing on some sectors. So telling that these are the sectors we want to invest. So focusing on sectors, further meaning plan resources, financial, institutional, and human resources, and create some instruments. Yeah, create some instruments to implement those resources. So I believe that these are three missing points. We have gathered some experience, but now I believe that we are in a time of reflecting on the system to ensure that these three missing elements are in place. The good sign for Moldova, but also for Poland, is that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has announced that they will design a strategy for development or cooperation with Moldova in development for 2025 to 2030. This is the first strategy that should be designed. So I believe that the ministry will keep the commitment, and we will move forward.
Now is the moment for questions, for your remarks. Maybe you have, please, if you have a questions for our colleagues. This is the moment I will bring a mic for you.
Thank you for this interesting discussion. My name is Piotr. I work at the Center for Eastern Studies in Warsaw, and I would like to ask you, in your opinion, because we are speaking about resilience in Moldova, so what are the biggest capabilities gaps in terms of Moldova's resilience in the area of defense, or rather more when we're speaking about resilience, law enforcement capabilities? And using the opportunity to have here Romanian speakers, I would like to ask, are there any discussions in Romania about how the country would react in terms of more advanced hybrid operation against Moldova? Is it part of the security debate in your country, or it is rather like more behind the scenes within the cabinet?
Maybe you can start from the second question.
So I have the answer because I think it was 3 days ago that the army officials have been asked what would Romania do if Russian tanks rolled into Moldova? And the answer was that Romania would very closely coordinate with its partners in the EU and in NATO. There would be no unilateral action on behalf of Romania. That said, of course, Romania is the closest physical partner of Moldova. So even though those would be assets that would be moved, we would call them EU assets, they would be actually Romanian assets that would be moved in order to support Moldova. But Romania is very careful to deflect any suggestions that it is moving to infringe on the sovereignty of Moldova. There would be no unilateral action on behalf of Romania. Everything would be done in only at the behest of the Moldovan government, and not as a single country action, but rather as part of a larger framework of EU support for Moldova. We are, like my colleague mentioned, we are doing a lot to help build the resilience of Moldova. But we are very careful that there is a discourse line used by Russian-friendly forces in Moldova stating that Romania is infringing on the sovereignty of Moldova, that Romania is a revanchist country that disregards the sovereignty and the nationhood of Moldova. And the Romanian authorities are very careful not to add fuel to that fire. I am mindful of the fact that there are political voices in Romania that still call into question the idea of unification, but those are not in any way official positions of Romania. The official position of Romania is always one of complete respect for Moldovan sovereignty, and we would do nothing to jeopardize that.
Would you like to answer for the first question?
Yes, but I would first also like to add something to what Cristian said. The narrative that Romania is going to unilaterally intervene in Moldova is one of the disinformation narratives that that Russia actually sought to use when it was trying to get people into the streets to come at the protests organized by Shore. So what they would say was that Romania is going to intervene against Transnistria and is going to essentially bring war and devastation to the Republic of Moldova. And what they wanted to do with this disinformation narrative was to induce fear into the hearts of Moldovans, and to then use that fear to turn it into support for pro-Russian forces. So it's a central topic of Russian propaganda, and this is why, as my colleague has said, we are very careful not to do anything that could give more information warfare ammunition to Russia. On the first question of what are the resilience gaps in terms of defense, the first thing that comes to mind is air defense. The Republic of Moldova needs needs air defense systems, especially short range and very short range action air defense systems, missile interceptors, that sort of stuff. They have acquired the first Western-made radar from France, but the radar is good for detecting and identifying targets. They need something to get those targets down. And this is a problem because, for example, cruise missiles fired by Russia towards Ukraine have transited the Moldovan airspace a couple of times. And it is indeed a scary thing from the Moldovan perspective that they have nothing to shoot them down with. So I think this is the key area where Moldova's European partners could really do something to help, because this is really how Russia does not have a land corridor to Transnistria from which it could go into Moldova on the ground. So if there were to be any sort of military threat, it would basically be with long-range strikes from the Black Sea Fleet or from the Russian Air Force. So I would say air defense is the main thing right now. Ground capabilities are very good. The Piranha APCs were very good addition to the Moldovan armed forces inventory. Even stuff like ammunitions and things like that matter a lot. But right now, if I were to put my finger on something and say this is what they need, in my opinion, it would be air defense. Thank you.
It's worth to add just briefly that Moldova is a neutral state, but it's not a typical neutral state, because in local political discourse for last 30 years, there was that perception that if we are neutral, it means that we should not invest in our defense at all, because it is against neutrality. Yeah? And it's changed now, but there is still a big group, part of society, who thinks in this way.
Just to support that, I mean, more than 60% of the society believes that neutrality is the best way to defend themselves. Exactly. Yeah.
Very shortly, which is why, again, I would say that air defense would be the best area, because it's less controversial than other things. It's uniquely for defense, and it would be quite hard to object to that. Oh, you're breaching neutrality. Well, it's only meant to shoot down things that are coming at you, so it's not going to be used to attack anyone.
Other questions? No questions, so it seems we are we finished our panel. Yes, and it's we have a perfect timing, because we are just about to start a coffee break. Thank you guys for this discussion. Thanks for all the audience for participation, and of course there is a possibility to talk on the coffee break. Thank you.